Here we go. Hi, welcome to ControlTalk now, your smart building video cast and podcast for the week ending August 5th, 2018. That's right, folks, it's August 5th. We're at August already, and we are at episode 278 of ControlTalk now. I am joined by your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only. Is he in preseason camp with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is Le'Veon Bell shaking in his boots because Kenny might come out of retirement if he doesn't accept a contract? Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show. Take it off.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. I don't know where you get these wild possibilities there. I mean that would come out of a probably one of the most coolest dreams I ever had would be to play football with the Steelers. No, what it was is that you were nailing it because I almost was at the Steeler training camp. I was invited to go. We couldn't go because we had a business meeting. But, yeah, it's in full flurry, just like I'm sure everybody else's NFL teams. It's kind of exciting. My daughter used to go to Wofford College, and the Carolina Panthers are there. And because she had an affiliation, I get their links and updates. And a friend of ours owns the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
Terry Pagola and his wife, they are credible football and hockey fans, of course, because they have a good reason to be, but they send their tweets out. So, and then of course the Steelers, apparently Antonio Brown, AB left the field yesterday with a mysterious injury. They did not comment. They said the mysterious injury, AB leaves the field. So I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, I'm excited. I can't help it. I'm ridiculous. No matter how many times I say I'm not going to do it, I wind up doing it. So figure that out.
I got you. But I got to tell you something. The biggest sport in Atlanta right now is soccer. All right, man. Check this out. Our team, Atlanta United. Kenny, I've been to 3 games already. It is everybody. The stadium is always packed, so they're averaging like 60,000 people a game for MLS soccer, right? And, man, it is such a great experience. Arthur Blank, the owner, they really focus on making it fan-friendly, so everybody's super nice there. The concessions are half the price you pay anyplace else. Everybody's on their feet standing the whole time. And we have the best team. We got the leading goal scorer. He's got 29 goals right now. The next closest guy has got 12. I've seen him. He's had 3 hat tricks, which means he scored 3 goals in one game 3 times already this year. This guy's name is Joseph Martinez, and dude, he is a little terror, man. He's fun to watch. So
I checked it out.
But they played the All-Star game the other night. I don't know if you saw that or not.
No, but what happened was you took your niece or something to a game, and I watched that game. And that's where he scored his last hat trick. And yeah. Well, don't forget, I lived in Germany 9 years. We had people.
You got a soccer player in the family.
Oh yeah, Gyah Lewandowski plays professional soccer for the Bayern München, which is one of the top women's teams in Europe. They've won the European Cup. She was on the team that won the European Cup. So yeah, they had a down season last year, but she's back. She's in her last year of her contract, so we're not sure what's going to happen to her next. But she had to fight off an injury at the end of last season. But yeah. I mean, it's huge. And I've been to the games too, close to the field. We did security, so that's one of the benefit of being security. If you're doing the physical security and you're actually controlling entry and whatever, you're on the football field or you're on the soccer field. I got to see it. These guys are. I mean, the
great athletes.
And the incredible precision and that they do with their feet with their ball. It's just every bit of throwing the ball into the end zone and the headers and everything. The timing, the calculus that they got to time the jumps. So it's a marvelous sport, and I'm glad.
I'm going to make my first politically incorrect statement of the day, probably not my last, which is, what I love so much about soccer?
What?
Half of them aren't even American, but they stand for the national anthem.
Oh. Well,
so they get my vote, And,
I think they got that figured out.
As odd as it sounds, I mean, so many people around you are saying the same sort of thing. It's just interesting how
Well, hockey did the same thing too. I
Affect
mean,
your
hockey
brand, right?
players were. Well, I think it's just paying, respect. When we were in Germany, we'd always have foreign flags. I was on a,
Yeah.
I was
Hey,
on
you're in
the
Germany. You don't stand for their national anthem. They shoot you, right?
no,
They don't care who you are. You don't stand for their national anthem. You're dead.
when people protest, I mean, you should never undermine the freedom of speech or somebody's
Agreed.
right to protest or
Agreed.
state things.
No, but do that on your own time, man. Do
Yeah,
that on your own time. If I'm investing money in your product and paying to go see, you don't protest in. Take all those millions and millions of dollars you're making because people like me are buying tickets to the game, and have a protest. I'll support you in that, but just don't do it.
Well, look what LeBron James did. I mean, you talk about the mark, North Pole, South Pole there, and what a guy did with he's actually changing. He set a precedent now that other people are going to follow because he gave him a model of how he can improve vast numbers of lives and change the direction of many people and do it in a healthy way that just it foments a positive response from everybody. So everybody resists, you automatically say no, or look, somebody's got your hand or something. The magic wand and use it to make things better, and then it actually works. So when you see different people do different things, I think we're living in an exciting age, and it's part of the show that we're talking about is not necessarily disruption or whatever. That's getting old because it sounds so ferocious. Disruption it has too many syllables in it. But in chaos, it indicates that nobody's in charge and it's all a free for all. But they're both truly alive and well.
I partially bring it up, Kenny, because we've talked a bit, and we'll talk a little bit more on the show about it, about the whole human element. We call it high touch, high tech from John Nesbitt days, or some of the stuff Ken Sinclair is talking about. I think you just have to be very, very, very aware of how your actions and how you're coming across at a human level, from your marketing to how you do it. People have so many choices now, and one of the things I do is God bless Amazon, but I try to support local vendors as much as I can. So I will go out of my way to drive to like Barnes and Noble, for example, to buy a book instead of buying it online. And I tell you what, if I go in there and somebody's got an attitude, I go holistic. I say, look, you know what? It is so much easier for me to order this thing online. I come in here to try to support your local business. And if you can't smile and thank me for coming in and act like you care, heck with you. So, but what I'm seeing, which a positive, an Amazon positive, is most of the places I go to down here, I'm very aware of the fact that people have been trained, to go that extra mile and have that personal touch. And again, it might seem like we're talking in circles, which we are, but we always do, but there's usually a point in there someplace. And again, I think what I'm getting back to is that the differentiators now are going to include the human touch.
Absolutely, and we're going to go into that, and we get like you said, we've got a couple of posts that fill directly into it to include the building whispers, humanizing our buildings, and we'll talk about that. But I think it's a good interlude because we took a couple of things. One is technology, and we're going to be talking about voice coming in as that high touch thing, or a higher touch, or a softer touch.
Yeah, well, Ken's talked about that, and you've done some research on it. So, I tell you what, I think you got a couple of shout outs. Let's do the shout outs and let's talk about the voice, and then we'll get into the posts. What do you say?
Sounds good. We have a couple shout outs. Like you said, we've got congratulations to Andy Calaros for 3 years at Johnstone Supply out of St. Louis. Congratulations to a couple of birthdays. But Michael Westerfield shared an update. Really excited about the Niagara 6 release. It's here. Save time, effort, and money during your systems installation. So great post by Michael. And then we have some really good stuff with your birthdays. So we have Peter Beekman. He's EIO Europe. He had a birthday.
You met him.
Absolutely. He's
the guy with the long blonde hair. There's the marketing, right?
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Right. Phil Wantling had a happy birthday to Phil Wantling. Abhinav Samani, happy birthday. Jeff Smith. Ken Bush. We had a bunch of birthdays out of the ControlTalk community, and wish them all well. Have a great day.
And just so you guys know, you're not getting older, you're getting better. You're guys and girls. So when you get to be as old as me and Kenny, then you got to start worrying. But hey, I want to do a couple of shout outs too real quick, which two of my favorite ladies in the control trends industry, Sarah Monteleone from, who's she with now? She's the wire company. Connect Air.
Yeah.
And then Angie Jarvis from Functional Devices. Both of them are sponsors of the Control Trends Awards. Angie came on this week. So Angie, thanks a lot. Angie and Sarah rock. you should buy those companies' products if for no other reason, and they're great products, don't get me wrong, that you get to deal with these two incredible human beings. So, hey, I don't know whether you guys are having birthdays or not, but happy birthday anyway.
Well, Sarah Monteleone won the PID award last year. So I think the industry recognizes some of the long-standing work. When you say 10 years, that's one thing. When you say 20, that's another. But when you start approaching the 3-0 in an industry and day in, day out, it can be a grind. It can be a great deal of fun, but it's a journey. And so it's time to, every chance we get, we're going to go ahead and just toot the horn and recognize people's and some of those journeys, because that's what makes up the backbone of our industry.
Yeah, no. So a couple things, Kenny. We don't have a guest this week, so it'll be just me and you. But I did want to point out that we are always looking for guests, and please don't be shy about asking. As a matter of fact, we're going to put a link on the website, and eventually we hope to have a calendar up there where you can actually pick your time to come on the show. But if you're in the industry, you have something to say, we would love to have you come on. The people who've done it will tell you it's a painless process. The people that done it will also tell you it's a great way to drum up business, and we've talked about on the show in the past, Kenny, that my biggest expense right now is outside salespeople. Okay, and not because you don't have to have them, but when I have outside salespeople making cold calls, it's a very expensive proposition. So part of, I think, your business strategy has to be, you have to have people going out trying to find business, but you have to be easily found as well. And Control Trends is a great way to be found. So Our community continues to grow, and people find you. I give you one example, and then we'll get off of it. But again, so the takeaway is, if you want to be on the show, reach out right away. Kenny can give you our Control Trends address, which is Control
Trends contact gmail.com. So all one word. Okay. But also, like you said, we're going to have a link and put it into a calendar format where we can have, like you said, we're going to shoot the shows. We'll probably get 3 or 4 guests in one day. It's very difficult sometimes. The hardest part is when somebody's in England or somebody's in India or whatever, getting that time synced.
Right.
We're 12 hours ahead or behind, and so we're going to do this through a calendar. So I think we have a template that's being.
Well, no, I've got to figure that out. That's easier said than done. But I'm going to endeavor to do that. But in the short term, I'm just going to have a link that's going to go to that email address so that we can get hold of it. But to give you an example, and this doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough to think about. If you're investing an hour in time, and I can't tell you how many people have told us that they've gotten similar sort of results, but. To give you an example, I talked about salespeople, and there was a big manufacturing plant and a chemical plant in Augusta, Georgia, and we have been trying for years. They had it locked down; you couldn't get in. So somebody from our company was going by once a week, knocking on the door, trying to get in. We couldn't get in. We couldn't even find a contact there. So it was a huge account. I came in one Monday morning, Ken, and I had a phone call from this company's corporate engineering up in the Northeast, and apparently. These guys, their corporate engineering, watch Control Trends and ControlTalk, and we had done an interview with somebody talking about a big expensive boiler control system, which normally is a very long cycle anyway. And the call went something like this: "Hey, this is so-and-so, I'm the plant manager over here in Augusta. Our corporate engineering team in New Jersey watches you guys all the time. They saw the interview that you did in the product demo that you guys did on the boiler controller. They want to buy 3 of them. They want to buy it from you. Could you please come to the plant and tell us what we need?" Okay? So that's kind of the power of being found, because when you're found, they got a need, and the investment on that for the vendor that worked with us was about 35 minutes. Okay? So it's one of our biggest orders. So that stuff happens. So I encourage you, not only for those sorts of reasons, but again, we got so many great people and with great products, and the business is changing, as we'll talk about. More and more stuff's coming into the marketplace. So please take advantage of this platform.
Great. And industries need a pivot points and whatever, and we have a lot of them. We have some great magazines and periodicals and websites out there to include the contracting news, engineered systems, of course, automated buildings, Ken St. Clair, buildingcontacts.me. I mean, so people need access to information. And one of your designs when you came up with Control Trends was to be a pivot point for the industry, a repository, a place you come in and find out looking for something, but then you find the link to go out and get get what you need. And I think the numbers are a testament to the success of that. But the need, I know I need it. Finding Ken St. Clair. I remember what was it, about 8 years ago or 10 years ago even. I was looking for something, and I Googled it. It came up, and then I got on the site, and from there, it's been indispensable for a source of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then just like LinkedIn now, when we look for people and we go to meetings, we lost their card or whatever, LinkedIn, boom, go there, type in the name. There might be 3 people with the same name. It's a killer, because even my name, Kenneth Smyers, comes up. There's 3 or 4 Kenneth Smyers in the United States. It's kind of wild.
I got to tell you, Kenny, I do impersonate you when I'm out on the town sometimes.
But it's almost magic. It's incredible how it used to be so arduous to do it, and now it's so simple. And let's transition a little bit, because that's what we're going to go into, how it's all about friction and removing and eliminating friction. Friction slows things down. If you re-enter atmospheres every time you come in, you're burning away all your energy, you're burning away your relationships and time. So when you remove that, they're saying that we've got a great post coming up. So let's just save that. Let's go. You want to go to our first post, which is at Honeywell Momentum?
Sure. Oh yeah, that's big news. Big news. Yep.
Yeah, Honeywell's they're really winding up full engines, and they're getting ready to release. And the Honeywell Momentum, of course, is always an important event. Every major vendor that has these, they come every 2 years, and the theme is "You've Got Connections." So it's October 21st to the 23rd at the Renaissance Orlando at SeaWorld. So not only is it a great meeting, but it's at a great site. So to break it down a little bit, there's a opportunity. It's not open to everyone, so you have to pay attention. So go to the post. We have a link in there, and it explains about the eligibility for the contractors and also the distributors involved. But it is Honeywell's big opportunity to get a lot of their people involved. Of course, all their distributors, contractors, major customers, and end users. But there's some new things coming out of Honeywell that this is going to be the release point. They've got the F1 controller that they're going to really and truly feature, and then also the Eagle controller, which is another what they consider to be a game changer, because it brings IO intense projects under very, very awesome control at a low price point. So some neat stuff going on there. But so Momentum means moving forward and driving growth, and that's what the conference is all about. Approximately 300 distributors, contractors, sponsors, Honeywell staff, and guests from across North America will gather for 3 days of informative workshops, training, industry forums, trade show exhibits, and networking events.
Well, we've been talking about it for a while. We're big Honeywell distributors. I know you guys are too. And Honeywell has been a perennial leader for so many years, and they've it's kind of like a sleeping giant. I think they've sort of been retooling, reintroducing, and getting ready to reintroduce some new stuff. And what I've seen so far of what they've got, what they're going to be introducing, is going to be pretty spectacular. So mark your calendars for that. We'll have more on that as we get closer.
There's one more point to make up. Ant Technologies, Aaron Gorka responded to that Honeywell thing, saying that they are going to be speaking at the business track, covering future-proof your business. Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday.
Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Okay, Aaron, I know you're a young guy. I know you like that Canadian lager. You're going to have to explain that to me next time I see you. But I tell you, he's getting everywhere, Ant Technologies. And, we talk about him a lot on the show, anttechnologies.com. But basically, you talk about a company that sort of is really creating an interface between your workflow and what you do, your customers and your billing. If you're a contractor, definitely check him out. And we'll have Aaron on the show soon.
And he's also recruiting millennials for the HVAC industry using technology and incentives. So he's doing a great job. Thanks, Aaron. Good
stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, Kenny, what do we have next, big dog?
Well, another one's just it's kind of boilerplate stuff for the people that really have the opportunity. This is in the Cleveland, Ohio area. This is the 2018 Energy Exchange and Better Building Summit. Again, in Cleveland, August 21st through the 23rd. There's 3 weeks left until you can sign up. There's still need to register to sign up today. We have a link on the site, but this is another major, it's a kind of a stratified, attendee type of people. These are the big guns in the energy smart grid world. This links the government, DOE, Department of Energy, the whole thing. The Better Building Summit is basically an initiative of the DOE, but this is they've got some packed education. So they're going to go over advanced energy efficiencies, processes, technologies, and strategies that are changing the marketplace. It's got quite a list of extraordinary people. The mayor of Cleveland's going to be there to give probably one of the keystone speeches or addresses. They've got people from the Department of Secretary of Energy, the Alliance for the President, Alliance to Save Energy, just a whole bunch of high-ranking people in the energy business and the industry that if you're into it, this would certainly be an important event for you because it's the who's who of the smart grid world. Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
All right. Next up, Eric, we have the kind of where we were including early in the show was the theme is building whisperers. And, you know, our title is Will Building Whisperers Humanize Our Buildings? And then from there, again, it's a very interesting the edition here, again, it's so full of links of what's going on in our industry that it's one of the most valuable, Ken St. Clair Automated Buildings that I've read because all the key or the editorials take you somewhere important in our industry. We've got, Ping Yao from Optical Networks has a very important, message there about our industry. Is it really truly IoT ready? And he explains it down nitty gritty. There's one where there's the 2018 Voice Buyer's Guide. And this is where we're going to transition to talk about this stuff. This was probably one of the coolest posts I've ever seen because this is the ranking of who's who in the voice automation, voice activated world. So it goes through the Echoes, through the Amazon people, the Google, Microsoft, everybody where they're at, who's taking the lead, and what industries are opportunities for us. You got Honeypots by Chipkin Automation Technology, the 5 pillars of asset management. Really good stuff. Mark Peacock comes up with another analytics at the edge post, and Tree Sullivan, will smart buildings make hearts sing? So some great stuff on this August edition of Automated Buildings. But let's talk about Ken St. Clair's editorial.
Well, yeah. Well, let's yeah. So first of all, another great episode. Edition that Ken has out. Now you said something, about the voice activation, and Ken has been talking about that for a while, that he really thinks the future is going to be in voice activated, like, hey, Alexa, hey, Google, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that's going to be integrated into control systems, into smart buildings. So now you've done quite a bit of research on that here lately, Kenny, and tell me your thoughts about that, because I think that dovetails right into it.
Well, I mean, what Ken had said was that, the voice will become the ultimate user interface. In other words, instead of, we talked about the days of walking over to a wall and up arrow, down arrow on a specific thermostat, that may or may not actually control your temperature, to mobile first, and then the user interfaces that we're seeing coming out from all the big players. This Tech had the extraordinary presentation at the Realcomm IBCon, where everything you needed, the control of the fan, everything's all on that one single display on your phone, and you can see it. It's not like, you got to put your glasses on or enlarge the screen. I don't know how they're doing this stuff, but the technology is being put to its greatest effect for the user's interface. So it's making it less and less difficult to get comfortable and get productive. So accelerating that concept, the term being used is friction. The idea is that you want to eliminate as much friction, as resistance, coming into an entry, where you just to get started, you got to remember the old days when you turn on your computer and it took 5 minutes to boot up. And then the coolest thing I ever saw was Apple. You turned it on, it was ready to go. It was operational ready. So we're seeing this thing of speed. So yeah, I got a hold of Ken St. Clair's links, and then Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's a leader in this whole thing, but we got a chance to now take a look at the voice tech landscape, B2B software, and how you have this emerging industry. According to Gary V, as he's referred to, this is just the entrance point. He talked about Facebook, where there was 300 people involved. He talked about Instagram being in the first 10 people that really took it seriously. He reminded everybody, Instagram is a $100 billion industry now. It was valued at $100 billion. $100 billion. Yikes. Anyhow, he says that is child's play compared to the potential of this voice tech. Voice technology, he said this right now. He had a guy on this video. It's a YouTube thing, and it's on Ken's, to Ken's credit, he puts the Gary V link so that you can watch it, and then you watch these two guys on the first video, then there's a second, and you're finding out that we're at the doorstep of another major disruptive, chaotic, but he said, no. this is a business opportunity for many people, because they're going to realize it, they're going to get it, and they're going to take whatever they do right now and they're going to add the voice complement to it. So you pick your voice. He said that, excuse me, I'm going to rattle some pages here because I just want to get the notes on it. Oh, here it is right here. He's saying that, basically as an entrepreneur, and he doesn't call himself an entrepreneur. He calls himself a firefighter. He puts fires out. But the platform. So you basically have to create, the apps built on a voice recognition platform. And he said how Amazon, to their credit, they built, their whole enterprise on Google AdWords, and how it just, by supporting it and using it, it created more and more of a push, to get better at it, faster, and more technologies. And then the apps started coming. So he said right now there's 40,000 apps involving voice technology. And he said that this time next year, it's going to be 40,000 put up a day. So, they were talking about that when there was 10 apps, 30 apps, 100 apps, 3,000 apps. Now, apparently there's probably about 40,000 voice recognition or voice platform applications. And he said that this is going to be an accelerated opportunity for people. So if you're in any kind of a business, or you're an entrepreneur where you're involved with people and you want to make that process, you want to reduce the friction, you got to use voice. So not just you're going to say turn on the lights, turn on the TV, close the garage door, open the garage door, whatever, there's command type things, but you're going to use it as they said, you'll use it for time stamping of all activities, thought captures, and in the thought capture, it will be shared like within a family realm. So the husband and wife, he said probably 50% of the arguments in a domestic, environment, or you're doing something and somebody's saying take out the garbage, or whatever, you're being interrupted of your flow, your process. And what the voice thing does is it becomes basically an antiseptic. It takes emotions out of it. It collects facts, data, organizes them, and say what I need to do today. So we maybe have the calendar, used to post it, pretty cool. Well, now you're going to have a 9 o'clock reminder. You got this. You'll be in the shower and you say, oh dang, hey Alexa, call Eric and tell him I'm going to be late. Whatever. So you're going to have this opportunity to use a voice, and what it's going to do is it's going to be a handless environment. You're not going to use your hands anymore. So all the voice searching, people are getting good at that. The entertainment industry, we're already seeing people saying, turn on, go to Amazon or go to Amazon Plus or whatever the TV movie things are to watch a movie. You're going to say, please, or you're not even say please. You're going to say, and that's something you brought up too. We got to talk about that, where kids are going to go deeper into a, more of a command driven, not a please, but turn on the lights, so you're going to have people going to increase their sensitivity to this. So I know I'm talking fast here, but I was excited because, the intersections that we've talked about, and how Ken St. Clair started this conversation last year, or maybe 18 months ago, saying this was coming into the buildings. And we're all saying, yeah, how, when, where, and now we're seeing it. And now if you really do catch up to it, you could be the first guy to produce or to actually implement and be successful with a new user interface that really integrates the building better, makes it a more productive environment. So that's
right. Right. And I think what's really cool about it is, Ken, he's out there, right? He's way ahead of the curve, sort of, he's the guy that's got the look at, the spyglass on the ship that's seeing where things are going. So, a lot of times, I think you and I even said sometimes it's like, wow, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. But I think what's really cool about this is, and we're going to sort of tie a couple things together on this episode, is this is something that if you're a manufacturer and this trend is going to happen, you could be the first one to come out with, hey, you program your controls with voice, or you're the thermostat that you can talk to and talk back. So you can figure out how to incorporate that. And if the manufacturers don't come out with it and you're a systems integrator, and we got so many high-level integrators, you could be an integrator that puts that piece in, right? You can bring that piece in and put it in. So I think that's a really cool concept.
Well, in fact, there's like a guide to get involved. I printed it out. It's 13 pages on the one site, but they were going into the how you looked at this. You have vertical software that does healthcare, e-commerce, finance, manufacturing, supply chain, real estate. You have horizontal software that does business intelligence, customer support, marketing, coaching, productivity. Then you have infrastructure software that does software, building blocks, and third-party services for voice-first ecosystem. So we heard mobile first. We thought that was a pretty cool term as far as everything's being driven by mobile first, making sure that it works on somebody's phone or smart device or smart pad or whatever. Now we're seeing a voice-first ecosystem emerge where everything, if you're going to do it, make sure you have a voice application for it, and then you'll have greater acceptability, greater implementation, because it's going to reduce the friction. So now that we understand some of these words, it's esoteric kind of vocabulary, what it means and why, and then to the point of Ken's theme in August, when this all came about, was the building whisperers, those who adopt a sympathetic view of motives, needs, and desires of the building's relationship with this humanistic purpose based on rapidly evolving views and understanding. So that's kind of a headsy thing, but
yeah, but hang on real quick, Ken. We got to give them a little stable datum. Some of these younger folks might not know the reference, and I think the reference goes back to a movie that came out when you and I were growing up called The Horse Whisperer with Robert Redford. And basically, the thing was that Robert Redford could take all these horses. His character in the movie could take these characters and he could whisper in their ear and understand them and have behavioral changes, right? So I think Ken is alluding to that. So if you don't understand, the reference to the horse whisperer, that doesn't make as much sense. But when you do understand, he's referencing back to a movie that was around when I had hair and Ken was younger. It makes a lot more sense.
Well, and then we had the building whisperers, Igor, Dr. Metzig. Remember, he was the first one. His father worked on a ship, and they sailed around the world and on a gigantic cargo ship, and they were basically self-sufficient. Whatever it broke down, whether it was the weather vane or the radar, somebody on the ship was responsible to get the first steps to fix it. But the incredible things that they did with the the engines and all the technology in that ship, he became adept at it and understood how it worked to the point where he could create a software program that could monitor the inhaling and exhaling of the building systems for 48 hours, and then come up with the ability to track anomalies and actually do the echo rhythm of a facility, and that was the first time I heard about a building whisperer. Basically, I think you might have said that because you made that comparison. That was 3 years ago. So now this emerging thing is that we have opportunities to adopt change. One of the things that Ken says in this thing, this editorial for August, is that he said those that well understand what I'm talking about are younger. And we all need to grow younger to understand. We all need to engage with their digitally raised thoughts to help us understand new ways of thinking and doing old things. The complete industry needs to grow younger while engaging in the discussion of this digital disruption. But my thing was that he said that the same style and the same rate of adoption that we take for our home and trying new technology, where we don't think twice about spending $300 to get some kind of a voice, Hey Google or Mini Google or whatever that was, Alexa. Many of us have it now. He's saying we need to take that attitude towards our commercial marketing and our businesses. That if we have that level of adoption, the rate of adoption is like, yeah, let's try it. He thinks that our industry needs to have that attitude in the real world, in our commercial buildings, and that's of course easier said than done.
Yeah.
But
well, hopefully we'll get Ken on next week, and we can take a deeper dive with this. But hey, I'm a big believer in why wait? Try it now. Alexa, who's the smartest guy on Control Trends? Alexa doesn't know that one, so there we go. We stumped Alexa right off the bat. So, all right.
You don't have to go to that anymore. You can go right to your phone and ask that question.
All right, brother. What we have?
Who's the smartest person on Control Trends?
Okay, I found this on the web for who's the smartest person. I control drones.
So that wasn't too bad.
Control drones. That might be Scott Mentz from J2 Innovation.
But the point that we just made is that we're going to be doing this, and it's not going to be funny anymore. It's going to become commonplace to the extent that if you don't have a voice interface, you're in trouble. Not yet, but it's getting there. That's what
it's coming. What's an opportunity? I mean, I think that's where it's heading. So,
right.
Hey, Ken Sinclair, we love you, buddy. Let's get you on maybe next. Oh, actually, we got him coming on with Lawrence next week, I think. So we got him coming up with some special, really good stuff. So, all right, buddy, what do we have up next?
Right. Well, so I just want to apologize, Ken. We cherry picked most of your, like Eric said, that we're going to have you on the show next week. So we'll probably be able to go in depth to all these things that we kind of went over superficially today.
Superficially,
extralidocious.
I take exception to that remark. We might have been cursory, but we weren't superficial.
Okay, so here we go with some of the again. we have been to a lot of the industry events that pretty much mark the calendar year for building automation, smart buildings, connected buildings, all the way from the smart homes up to the most advanced commercial real estate parcels in the world. And so we got a chance to do a smart buildings interview with a game changer, a new product called Facilio. And we've seen this a little bit before, but we talked with some very, very smart people at this Realcomm, IBCOM, or Realcomm 20 and the Launchpad at Realcomm Live. So why don't you tell me what your thoughts are about this gentleman?
Well, first of all, he blew me away, okay? And I think the takeaway was that, you and I have been going to Realcomm IBCON for a while and doing the product showcases and seeing what's there. And I don't know if it was just me or not, but, for the first couple of years, we went and it was just kind of all us, right? And then it went to Silicon Valley. They started showing up. But what blew me away this year was it seemed like there were more players, global players, that descended on Realcomm IBCON than I'd ever seen. And there are more players in the analytics and the the information technology side of it. And this particular gentleman, Raj, was from India, and his company Facilio. It was fascinating. You can see the video. We won't bore you too many of the details with that. But what was interesting to me was he was leading with the fact that, getting back to your point, that it all came back. It was actionable data that came to the mobile device, and it was specifically for the facilities folks, so they could get just the data they needed on their smartphones, the mobile devices. But he was talking about he had machine learning built into this, as well as fault detection and some of the stuff that we're very familiar with. So, I don't know enough about those packages to know just how far advanced he is. Because we obviously got guys like John Petsy and SkySpark here, which I think is a standard that we sort of measure against here, SkySpark or maybe Alper at BASSG. But I'd be interested for our community, anybody that's familiar with it, to reach out and let us know what they think of it. But delightful gentleman, very, very sharp guy. And again, I think another trend that we're going to see more and more people. I think the statement I made in the post is that the smart building controls community is getting smaller and smaller. It's shrinking. And I think we're going to see more and more people coming to our shores, and hopefully we got more and more of our team heading overseas as well.
Right. So it was an extraordinary event. The Launchpad really had a profound meaning because, as you said, many of these people, this is their first entree into the North American markets. They invested in that opportunity, and I'm sure a lot of them hit their desired locations. They hit the markets. They sell that exposure. To the test of just to keep talking about Realcomm IBCON, because we have a couple more posts going in that direction, is that there is a very important aspect of people that have to keep tracking technology. And where do you go? How do you do it? You can sit there and read all day. You can be on the internet shopping all day or surfing all day or whatever you want to call it, looking for the technology that you need to integrate or whatever. Or you can go to somewhere where they have the cliff notes of just about every concept you can think of, from A to Z. It's got representation, but it's also got the forefront. It's got the leaders, and many times it's supported by an existing set of customers or case studies that really can get you to turn the bend.
Well, I think the key, Kenny, is we're in the information age, right? I mean, the amount of information. My teacher Marshall Thurber done a study on it. It's like from the beginning of time to 1940, the amount of information doubled or tripled or whatever. But anyway, the point being that the amount of information that's available is quadrupling like every 4 weeks. So the name of the game with information now is culling, right? I mean, you got to cull down to what's relevant to you. And I think that's what we try to do on Control Trends, right? That's part of our strategy, is to take this universe of information that we're being bombarded with and cull it down to things that we think are curated, that we think will be of interest to our community, right? And I think what makes Realcomm IBCON so great, okay, is the fact that they're doing that with actual people and products and bringing them to a location. I mean, it used to be that, you go to, we still do to a degree, you go to a particular conference, like we talked about Momentum. So the people that are interested in Honeywell are going to get to go to a deep dive at the Momentum meeting, right? But if you go to Realcomm IBCON or a place like that, you're going to get what Honeywell has, Siemens has, plus all these other players. So it's really and truly, it's not that information's hard to find. It's hard to find information you can use. I mean, think about it. If you were right now Google smart building controls, first of all, you got to go through about 6 or 7 pages of paid ads, right? That somebody's paying to have their point of view up there before you get to what they call an organic search, which is, what the public are sort of voting on, right? What they're finding relevant. So I think there's certain real might become invaluable.
Well, just to take the two things we just said about the voice technology, they had that there. They had the leaders of voice technology applicable to commercial buildings there, all the way to that robot we saw last year, where if you go, it was a receptionist. They had the, so.
Oh, by the way, I've gotten, I'm getting sued by that robot's lawyer for being a bit abusive. I wasn't talking nicely.
Really?
The robot. So yeah,
condescending.
Got no summons. Yeah, I was a little condescending. It was a little like, I wasn't being machine politically correct.
I think when you got in trouble was you asked the question about the sex bots. Is that a crime against your marriage or whatever? I think I
didn't ask that question.
Yes, you did.
No. It was last time I was in Southern California. It was on talk radio.
Oh,
if you have sex with a sex bot, is it the same as cheating? They were debating that. I brought it up because I thought it was just I couldn't believe they were talking about it on the radio. And then you start thinking about it. Wow. I mean, is morality going to have to take on a whole new sort of level defining about the relationships you have with your machines, right?
Well, to that point, my friend Scott Weber, he sent me we do a lot of reading, sharing books or whatever. He sent me one of the coolest 2-page short stories I've read in quite a while, and it's about that. It's about where the engineered humans come into play and start to upgrade our whole society. And the cool thing about it is that somewhere along the line, the robots become more human to the point they get privacy rights, they get voting rights, they get so you don't have to say if you're an advanced humanoid, which is a combination of a robot and human, you don't have to tell them, and the government can't look at it, so you're protected. So this guy falls in love.
It's coming, man.
This guy falls in love with this woman, and he's having the fit to find out if she's real human, 100% human, or what the percentage is, and it's extraordinary science fiction taken to the next level, where she said, I knew it's been bothering you. I could sense it. So they could read your mind. I mean, so if you get a partner, they're the perfect partner, because if they do accept you, they are the most consummate partner you have, because they can almost read your mind. They have instant access to the computerized web world. So any question you ask them about it. So if you take them to a trivia pursuit contest there, or you go to your friend's house, you say, hey, what's the name? Who's that baseball player who played shortstop for the Yankees in '53? Your mate will say, oh, it's Billy Dexter.
Yeah, right off the bat. Yeah.
So it advanced life as we know it. It advanced no wars. It solved diseases. It made the world, a better, safer, happier place. It was a hell of a story for 2 pages. I mean, can't beat it.
Dude. Well, we talk about that, but I think it's coming. But that is a horror story for another day. So,
let's get down to basics again. And this was one of my favorite persons at that show because of several reasons. But the next post is called Meet Ronald Rowe. He will change the way you look at sensors. Get aware. And aware is spelled AWAIR. Of course, being
that was a phonological ambiguity, by the way.
Well, it's really cool how they picked the name, because to be aware, AWARE, is to be conscious or aware of, to be taking your environment and knowing what is in that environment and how it affects you. You become aware. Well, if you have a sensor that helps you do it, and the sensor's designed from the basis of design was that he had his own daughter, his own family, and I could relate to that easily too, because my daughter Stephanie had so many allergies and was allergic to everything. Well, we don't understand why people are having so much allergies. I mean, when we were kids, we would eat peanut butter out of the jar on a spoon and not think twice. School served peanut butter and jelly as a lunch entry without second thoughts, and all of a sudden now, you go into restaurants, it says right on the outside of the restaurant, I saw 2 of them so far, so this facility has nuts, or for nut contamination, please, our menu, whatever. So they're warning you before you come into their restaurant that they cannot protect you from nut allergies if you are subject to them, because there's just too much cross contamination, and they just can't be liable for it. So they tell you that it's on the menus, it's on the door, but what caused that, Eric? What happened in the 40 years, 50 years that makes people...
Kenny, I know it's a Control Trends breaking story here. How do you tell whether somebody's human or a robot?
I don't know.
Robots are allergic to nuts, man. That's how you tell. I hate to tell you, Kenny, your daughter, Stephanie, she might be one of those advanced beings.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let her know that and see what she says.
But sort of cycling back around to Ronald, I think the really cool thing about this product, and again, I think this falls in the category of, Ken Sinclair and sort of the symbiotic relationship that he's sort of espousing that's going to have to happen between buildings and occupants and buildings. And I mean, this hits on all the cylinders, Kenny, in my opinion. First of all, it's got a compelling story because Ronald created this because of his daughter and the allergies. So it's got just a wonderful story there. And essentially, it's a sensor that detects contaminants, dust, things that can cause allergies and stuff like that. So it's an indoor air quality sensor, sort of bar none. I mean, when we were at the conference, we were actually walking through. There was some mounted on the wall. Don't you remember? We stopped one night and we go, whose thermostat is that? That's one of the coolest thermostats I've ever seen. And we couldn't tell whose it was. And then the next day we interviewed Ronald for the launch pad. So it's got that. But again, if you start thinking about like the $3,300 rule and how you can begin to take these concepts and use them to differentiate yourself, I mean, this thing is going to play within that. The millennials are going to love that because it's very sensitive to the needs of the occupants, right? The 3300 is going to be more productive. It's going to detect whether their allergies or contaminants, let them know. The younger folks that are in the buildings now that are sort of going to demand higher standards are going to love it. So I think this is a great example of a product that can sort of be bundled in this whole thing Ken Sinclair is talking about, the humanization of the buildings.
Well, and to your point, okay, so we're talking about increasing productivity. We're talking about all the things that are affecting our industry, kind of the disruptive things. And we got people out of Harvard that are actually putting in there's 9 points of evaluation to determine the health of your building, 9 points of the healthy building. And so the things that I was not aware of, using our pun here, is that a lot of the things that are bothering you can't see. Carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide was one thing, but the ability to measure at a micron level the dust and the particulates, to know what's in the air you breathe. And then the customers, like, remember when the CO2 sensors first came out, and banks and all these schools, they were buying them like toilet paper, and they were Honeywell had a plug-in thing that people used to put in a chair in the hallways. And they monitored the air for a certain amount of time at certain places every day, and it was documented to prove that they were not exceeding ASHRAE CO2 levels. Banks, I one time had to hustle down the road with 2 of them in my hands and get it to the facility manager at one of the banks because the tellers were complaining that they weren't getting enough fresh air. And he had to prove to them on a display, with an accurate, expensive, CO2 device, that they were within the 900 parts per, they're below 900 parts per million, or whatever the requirement was. So now we're seeing this things going into the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds that, we used to sell those VOC sensors for schools because they could monitor smoke. In other words, the school wanted to prevent people smoking cigarettes in their lavatories, and they couldn't be intrusive, invasive, couldn't use a camera, so they would use these VOC sensors, which were, $60, $70 at the time, and they would pick up the smoke. And so now the design, but this is a firm out of South Korea that is going to make a big impact. They're already, these things are available on Amazon, and they're going to create a distribution channel in the near future. We kind of got that from Roe. But the importance of productivity now, what would solidify your portfolio more sufficiently or adequately than having a sensor that told exactly what your humidity, your temperature, your VOC level, and your filtered air, where you were at on one single sensor. That's huge. And then to bring that in through the different protocols or whatever, from a digital or analogs or to BACnet, that's really accomplishing something. So I think that's another company that's on its way through our North American markets, and we got to see it kind of first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And right now, it's been primarily for residential, and they're ramping up for commercial. And I think when they get to the commercial side, it will come through distribution channels. So good stuff there. Ronald Rowe's a cool dude. Really cool dude. So.
I was very impressed, and he was likable. I mean, some of these people, they're kind of like engineering, to the point where they don't have a personality or they don't have that story. But his story was what he told first.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really disarms you, because when you can relate to it, because I got a family too. I have a daughter that was also affected by allergies. So this was really germane to my interest. For improving, the quality of life in my house or their house or something. So
yeah, people will buy a story. They won't necessarily buy a product. And they're buying a product is because they've already bought a story. So I think, marketing 101, man.
I've wrote down the last thing. It's hard to find info that you can use, or whatever you were saying. You got to kind of record this. So you did record it. So we got to get that down so that we give you credit for it when it gets repeated, Yeah,
I got you, brother. I got you. Well, listen, I think that, the next thing we did, we posted on Friday, our Friday flashback. And, dude, it's me and you and a bunch of Scottish whiskey, right?
Well, we did have a couple. We had to go to all the famous places where that made everybody in Scotland famous in the Scotch Irish whiskeys and the different stuff. But it was a magnificent trip. But more importantly, again, it was an eye-opening thing of how we tied the evolution of smart buildings and how you have a cradle of civilization and how that moved from in the ancient times, from China to India to Egypt to Greece to Rome, to Paris to Scotland to where did it go after that? It went to Vienna, and then it went to Silicon Valley, and now it's getting ready to move on somewhere else.
To Atlanta, maybe, baby.
Well, that's what they said. That the cradle of civilization is moving from Silicon Valley, San Jose to Atlanta, not far from Eric's house.
All right, so I'm gonna go esoteric here for you a little bit, because there's a real interesting. I've studied a lot of quantum physics and stuff like that, and we all assume that consciousness is in. This gets relative to why this stuff moves around from place to place. We all assume that consciousness exists within our ears, right? You got your consciousness, I got my consciousness. A lot of the quantum physicists, David Bowman, those guys, don't think that at all. They think there's a thing called a morphinogenic field, which is like there's these fields of ideas and concepts and so on and so forth. And then our minds are tuned to those, so we actually pull those things down, which would explain the location changes. Like a place like Edinburgh at that particular time, people were drawn there because they were able to draw the ideas down from there. But if you look at throughout history, where great ideas and things have changed, they have been location specific. So I think that field, maybe it's because of global warming, is moving from Silicon Valley over to.
No, but I kind of agree. That's Carl Jung with we're all born with our own set of iconoclastic images of deities and whatever, and that's why we all no matter what country. Joseph Campbell went to how many countries and found out that everybody has some religious belief and they create a god. But I think too is that we're talking about Florence being a cradle where you had art, you had the greatest competitions. At one time you had extraordinary people hanging out with each other: Leonardo da Vinci, Brunelleschi, Michelangelo, Raphael, and they were competing for contracts. So I think it's part two. And then we found out with Edinburgh, one of the big reasons for that becoming a cradle of civilization was that the church official wanted every single person in their country to read, and the earlier the age that they could become literate and read, the earlier they could begin to read the Bible. So he paid for these kids, in grade school or whatever they would call it at the time, to learn how to read, but they didn't just read the Bible. They began to read everything else. The printing press was alive and well, and they started reading books. They started reading philosophy, and you had Adam Smith. You had all these incredible philosophers come out of there that changed the way people accepted the previous norms. So they broke the castes of ideas, and just like we did with Paris, that cradle of civilization was that the Renaissance, and of course that goes to Italy as well. But they just started challenging things. Brunelleschi built a cathedral instead of going up in a vertical rise, and the people up there were higher than the people on the bottom. And they had that limiting ability to understand. He broke that. Created a cathedral that had an even round ceiling that everybody was eye to eye, so to speak. So that was a concept that people. It was a defiant breakthrough, but then it led to the origins of the Renaissance. So we see this happening in our technologies now. So some of the silly things we said today in the show, we don't probably realize how close we are to saying the reality is that 50 years from now they're going to look back at this hopping going on, and the technologies that caused it. Now, to your point about that,
well, hang on, I want to make a comment real quick, because see, the one thing about history, and I think this is something to think about. The one thing about history is people never or very rarely realize that they're making or changing history while they're doing it. It's only in retrospect that they can know the impact that they had. And I think, Ken and I keep saying that we think, at least in the evolution of controls, we are at a tipping point where things are changing very, very rapidly. And 100 years from now, when people look back, they will look at this time period as a Renaissance period in control.
Exactly, because that was the point. Remember, we were standing there in front of some of those ancient buildings, both in Paris, where we looked back at the Louvre, and we looked back at the the pyramid was right there, but then right beside it was these buildings that were built in the 17th century, 18th century, and they have controls in them. They have sensors in them. They have modern technology, and it's the same within it. So it's a common denominator. In other words, we're trying to come up with ways to explain how that we all have something valuable to offer. And as an industry, we're still kind of punked that we don't have, we're not out there with the bankers and the lawyers or whatever. We're what does your dad do? I don't know. He goes to work at 7, he comes home at 7, and we live in a nice house, but I don't know what he does, because we don't have the explanations. We don't have the parity. We don't have the, we don't have the stories. We don't have the marketing. So, and that's part of the reason why we don't get enough good people in our industries. And we're changing it, right?
Well, we will. And for you younger people that are coming in the industry, and especially, if you meet somebody from the opposite sex and they ask what you do, you look at them and do what I used to do. And you say, I'm the one that makes you hot when you're cold and cold when you're hot.
How'd that work for you?
I'm on my 4th wife, so you tell me.
That must work really well.
All right.
Repeatability, huh?
Yeah.
We have one more post here that we want to make sure we don't shy up here, and that is the Realcomm CIO and Property Tech Forum announced.
Nice.
So this is another, this is an offshoot of the Realcomm folks. They are producing again. The idea is that they have a Realcomm conference group, which is a company focused. Exploration, education, collaboration at the intersection of technology, innovation, and commercial and corporate real estate. Okay, that's the marketing side of it. But the real side of it is that if you're in the business, the Realcomm CIO Forum series is open to CIOs and other senior IT professionals in the commercial real estate development, REITs, owners, brokers, investment management, and related service industries in selected markets on a global format. So we were talking about a common denominator, common currency, which was buildings and sensors and controlling the way air and water moves through those buildings. It's common around the world. You might have different requirements, different levels, but basically everybody's trying to create the best way to do that in the most efficient way possible. So to get your hands on that information, you got to get mobile. You got to get out there and see it. So they have a global, series going on that goes to Sydney, New York, London, Dallas, Chicago, Toronto, San Francisco, and what's common about it is there's a local champion that volunteers to host it, and then the most senior, most extraordinary people in those industries are meeting, and they're talking very important stuff, and it's a great place to catch up or learn or share or network. Very, very cool. Well, there you have it. Another week on Control Talk, now your smart buildings videocast and podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. I'm Eric Stromquist. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Ken Smyers. Hope you have a great week. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. Indeed, Eric. Indeed, Kenny Smyers. And that's a wrap. All right, big dog. All right, I think we did it, huh?